This title is narrated with virtual voice, computer-generated narration for audiobooks. Spark, by J.P. Scott. Chapter 1. I slowed to turn left off Arizona 260, a two-lane highway that slid through the Arizona pines. It was 2 hours from Phoenix up to cooler temperatures and starry skies. Bo, my chocolate lab, woke from his slumber and panted at the passenger window. I pressed the button to lower his window, and then mine. The air here always smelled different, and better, than down in the valley. My summer home away from home. So close, but a world away. This was my 4th summer coming up to the Mogollon Rim to rent at Lakeside Estates. When I was working on my 2nd novel, I found myself struggling to get motivated at home. In a fit of procrastination, I loaded Bo, my laptop, and his suitcase into the SUV and took off on an impromptu road trip. I wanted a place near hiking and seclusion. Lakeside Estates fit the bill. The north side of the highway had 2 sections. Family-owned cabins on 2 to 5 acre lots on the west end, and rental cabins to the east. Between the two sat a small restaurant, market, and fire department, their attempt at making the place a town. South of the highway was a campground for people traveling through with their RVs and fifth wheels. I finished that 2nd novel, sketched the beginning of a 3rd, and drank a lot of wine. Every summer I came back to focus on my current project. I would probably be okay back at home, but why tempt fate? The cars traveling westbound finally provided an opening, and I turned onto the road to the cabins. A road that turned to gravel shortly past the edge of the highway's pavement. The first cabin also housed the office, and I pulled to the front. "Stay here," I told Bo. He whined as I climbed out but obeyed. I entered the office expecting to find George Dawson at the desk, finishing a crossword puzzle and counting the minutes until his next cigarette. Instead, I bumped into a couple in their 40s that I recognized from last summer. "I can't believe they lost our reservation." She was tapping her fingers on the counter while he scrolled through his phone. "I know I have the confirmation here in my email somewhere. This has never been an issue before. George always had everything in order." George had owned these cabins for years. He knew what he was doing. He was low-tech, and liked it that way. He kept detailed ledgers by hand, and tried to keep the front desk tidy. No one was behind the counter, but I did see a computer. The monitor was slightly turned towards the guest side of the counter. It was a blue screen. High-tech only works when it does not crash. "Where is George?" "Not well, apparently," the wife said to me. "His nephew's in charge and lost our reservation." I stepped towards the counter. George should have all of his files right there, neatly organized by date and cabin. Instead, I found papers scattered. "I recognize you both from last year. What's the name on the reservation?" Whenever George had to step away from the property but was expecting guests to arrive, he would ask me to man the office. I also lent a hand on the big weekends when there were a lot of guests coming and going. I was well versed on his system. I scanned the piles and tried to make sense of the papers I was seeing. If I could find the color-coded forms that matched their reservation, and mine, we might get everyone checked in. Farnham. It was starting to come back to me. David and Leah, right? I would see you when I walked my dog. David stared at me blankly, and Leah rolled her eyes. I returned my focus to the papers. I began to sort based on the check-in dates I saw on each form, and created piles across the counter. "David, this is crazy. What if we don't find it?" He held his hand up as he continued to search his phone. I found my slip and set it aside. I grabbed another stack and continued the sort, still shocked by the disorder. Something had happened to create this chaos. George would never have left it like this. Finally, I saw David and Leah Farnham's slip. "I got it." David exhaled, and Leah said, "Thank goodness." I checked the slip for their cabin number and retrieved the keys. "For the remaining balance, how will you be paying?" David produced a credit card and laid it on the counter. I moved the check-in slip towards him with a pen for him to sign. Next, I grabbed his card and processed the purchase on the card reader. David signed the receipt and slid it back to me. "Thank you for helping." David.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.